Hey, what's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of the Sons of Sequoia podcast, the seventh episode.
SoS 7.
Today, we're just going to take a look at some of the things we've talked about throughout the week and circle back to them. So yesterday, we did a full episode on game stonks and some stuff definitely happened with GameStop while we were sleeping, while we weren't podcasting. Let me just pull up the stock ticker right now. It is currently trading at 336. It's up $142 or 73% for the day since it opened just a couple hours ago. So the volatility and the excitement is still there around that stock. But do you want to talk about what happened yesterday, or should I?
No, go ahead.
So there's a few apps that people use, TD Ameritrade. They can use traditional brokers like Charles Schwab. But one of the big ones was Robinhood. And Robinhood is a new startup that allows you trades without fees, brokerage fees. And that's what a lot of these retail investors for GameStop were using to purchase the GameStop stock. And Robinhood yesterday sort of unilaterally decided, you know what, we're not going to let you buy GameStop. You can sell it, but you can't buy it. And of course, this angered everybody because it doesn't seem right, does it?
And it fed right into the hands of the people who short traded.
Yeah, it's a move that would certainly help the institutional investors who were being burned, not allowing anyone else to buy the stock.
Yep.
Because Chris Cuomo, actually, the CNN anchor, interviewed the CEO of Robinhood, and it was pretty disastrous for this guy. He was saying, we wanted to protect our customers, so we did this. And Chris Cuomo was saying, this is traded on the New York Stock Exchange, and it's regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commissions. So the New York Stock Exchange could have made the determination that this stock on its listing is a danger and stop trading on it. But they didn't make that determination. The Securities and Exchange Commission could have made the determination from a governmental level that something screwy is going on here and we need to halt trading. But they didn't make that determination. Robinhood, as the portal through which retail investors buy stock, single-handedly made that determination, where the people above them that would have a better view of it didn't make that determination. So the effect was retail investors couldn't buy GameStop. But if you were a hedge fund, if you were a money man, if you were a market maker, there was no restriction on buying the stock. So it seems almost as if when people say the game is rigged, the reason why they say that is because they're right.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about a platform not allowing you to buy a specific stock? And also, the CEO hinted at one of their big funders was probably getting hurt. I mean, he didn't say this explicitly, but he also said, he alluded to the fact that Robinhood might have liquidity issues if this kept happening. If they kept losing money on this stock. And then they said, do you have liquidity issues? And he said, no, we don't have any liquidity issues. We're the number one app on the App Store. So he was talking out of both sides of his mouth. He didn't seem particularly forthcoming, if that makes, if you get my drift. I don't know exactly how to put it.
Yeah.
And
I think it was. Yeah, David, it was fascinating because they uh, they start reacting to the big guys, and uh, and they say, okay, well, I see everyone who's buying stock uh, and selling stock are the little guys here, and so we're just going to stop it. You can. So they're going to stop that here at my level, and so that plays right into the hands of the, as you say, the big traders,
and
the big guys.
I'm gonna put something up on the screen. We talked about this guy yesterday, Chamath Palihapitiya. He
Uh-huh.
is an early investor in Facebook. He's a billionaire. He's an activist investor. He went on CNBC, and I told you that this interview got deleted. I was able to find it last night on YouTube, but now it's taken down again. Um, so he told the CNBC guy, and I'm just paraphrasing, so don't. It's not a quote, but he said, "Listen, this happens all the time. Just because this time you lost doesn't mean you get to change the rules." That's what he said. So here's his pinned tweet, and then this tweet that he tweeted 15 hours ago. So the pinned tweet is from 22 hours ago, and then we'll read what he said 15 hours ago. Uh, we'll just throw it up on the screen for everyone to see. Pinned tweet. In moments of uncertainty, when courage and strength are required, you find out who the true corporatist scumbags are.
Wow.
And then here's this one's perhaps even more telling. I remember when I met the Robinhood app founders. They were raising their seed, Series A, and Series B funding. I passed. Why? Optimize for integrity whenever possible. Because integrity compounds and assholes will fuck you. Hashtag delete Robinhood. So some strong language from billionaire Chamath Palihapitiya.
Wow.
And I think you see that on Shark Tank, just sort of to take it down to a level that more people can understand. A lot of these billionaire activist investors, they invest in people, not really in ideas.
Hmm.
So the idea of a zero brokerage fee platform on which individuals can trade stocks and the retail customer can have the same skin in the game as anyone else. They're not getting screwed, so they can do it. They can operate however they want in the stock market. That's a good idea. But if it's run by someone who lacks integrity, and I don't know whether or not the Robinhood app founder lacks integrity, I just know that Chamath Palihapitiya seems to think that he does. It's not a good investment because you invest in people, you don't invest in ideas.
Yeah, and I think like in the Shark Tank, they're the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they'll certainly invest in ideas if it's a good idea, but they'll invest in the people first. Even with a good idea, the poor person, they can make it fail. You can take a weak idea, not a bad idea, but a weak idea with a good person, and they can make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So integrity, as I say, compounds success.
Yeah. I think that this goes back to the story you told yesterday of the Harvard business student whose business plan got a C or a D or whatever. And he said, well, they may have given my grade academically might have been a C. But I think it's a good idea. And he was a hard worker and a smart guy, and he was a doer, and he went and he built FedEx. So academically, there were people that had projects that got an A. Are those projects better? Well, in the academic sphere, maybe. But are those projects multi-billion-dollar companies today? No, they're not.
Success is a lot more than just a good idea, and it wasn't really the C. That was lost. We didn't really know what it was. I think one thing for sure, it wasn't an A. But the idea there is that you're right, David. It probably was academically not an A. He could not have had all the T's crossed and I's dotted, and it probably wasn't that good. But then, well, the business plan wasn't that good. But the idea was novel. The idea could work if you had the right people behind it, and he was the right person. But he was going to carry it through. And I think the key to good ideas is not just a good idea. It's two things. One, you don't give up and you keep going, even in the face of failure. But two, you get lucky.
Yeah.
You just get lucky, but you don't give up. And especially when you have failure, just keep going. And so, there's a lot to this idea. So I think in universities they should say, well, even though you get a B or a C, academic, I would never say that this is not going to work. Is that it could be a better plan, but it doesn't mean it won't work.
Hmm. Yeah, and I think that also, I mean, planning is important from a business standpoint, obviously, but sometimes the plan isn't everything. Sometimes the timing, the breaks that you get, like you said, you get lucky. Uh, and that's what people are trying to say. We need to stop these retail investors from buying GameStop because it's not worth 300 and whatever it is a share right now. It's not worth 322. It closed at 200 last night. It's up $120 per share. Well, it was overvalued at 200. We got to stop people from buying it because when it's 322, it's even more overvalued. Well, what Chamath was telling this interviewer is, you're saying these people are too dumb to know what they're doing, and so they need to be protected from themselves. So we need to sort of take away their ball and say they can't play anymore. Only the billionaires can play. And it's like, that's not how the free market works. Also, before we go on any further, we're not financial advisors, we're not brokers, and this is not advice. This is just us sort of reacting to the news.
This is just talking to each other.
Yeah, we're just talking, and
We're just talking.
nothing
I'm just
that
saying.
nothing that we say should be construed as legal or financial advice. Just to get that out there, correct?
Absolutely. We're just observing these things as well. We're just throwing ideas out.
Mm-hmm.
This is not advice. We're just talking and throwing ideas around.
I mean, so they're saying, oh, these retail investors don't know what they're doing. And it's like, well, it looks like the retail investors are transferring dozens of billions of dollars of wealth from hedge funds into their own pockets. And you're saying they don't know what they're doing? To me, it seems like the hedge funds didn't know what they were doing. They were out there on a limb taking this risk, and they got bit by it. And now they want someone to step in so that they don't have to pay the piper. That doesn't seem right to me.
Well, I don't know. I think they knew what they were doing, but they got caught at it.
Yeah, their hand was in the cookie jar, so to speak.
Yeah, their hand was in the cookie jar. They knew what they were doing, but and they've been doing it. I think who said this has always been happening. Someone saw it and cut the string. They got caught.
Mm-hmm. And the direction of the transfer of wealth has changed. So people, we've always transferred wealth from one group to another, but it's usually from the little guy to the big guy. So in an instance where they use the same exact technique to transfer it from the big guy to the little guy, something has to be done. We need to change the rules back. The system was designed for this not to happen, I think. That's what the hedge fund managers are saying.
Yeah. They're crying foul because what the retail investors are doing is what we've been doing for years, and that's foul. They shouldn't be doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
They should be not that. They're not doing it. They shouldn't undermine what we're doing.
Yes, it's like saying you can't impeach the president because it sets a dangerous precedent. And impeachment is a sacred right. And if you do this for the Ukraine thing or for causing an insurrection on the Capitol, you'll cheapen the value of impeachment and it will have no value. And we believe that impeachment is much more sacred than that. And that's why we're voting against impeachment. And then the first day Biden gets into office, a Republican congresswoman introduces articles of impeachment against him. And it's like, where did your argument go? So it's like, it's wrong when you do it, but we're going to do it too. Why are you going to do it? Because you did it. And it's like, but you said it was wrong when we did it. It's like, yeah, it was wrong, but you did it. So we get to do it too. And it's like, that's not how it works. If someone I know murders someone, I say, that was wrong, man. And then I go buy a gun and murder someone else. they say, why did you murder that person? I said, because you murdered him. But you said it was wrong. I mean, it's something's either wrong or it's not. I guess it's like Chamath says, integrity compounds. You know?
Well, another lesser example is baseball. Back in the 1800s, I looked at it, was Candy Cummings. He didn't throw the ball straight. He threw it with a curve on it, and the ball curved. Well, it was hard for the hitters to hit it, and so everybody yelled foul. So that's not right. You're not supposed to do that. And so there was a big issue. It says that's wrong. That's wrong because when you throw the ball, it makes the batters harder to hit, and you might strike them out, and that's not helpful for the batters. You should lob it in there so they can hit it. And he says, yeah, but if I strike them out, we're going to win the game. Yeah, well, you should give us a chance to win too. And I says, I'm throwing the ball, but you're throwing a curve on it, and so it was a big controversy back in the late 1800s. And so to me, this may be a stretch, but I love that idea that he introduced a curveball, and all of a sudden they wanted rules against it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because he could strike batters out and batters couldn't hit it. So wait a minute, if I can't get a hit and win, then I'm going to change the rules.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that. You can't do what makes me not win. I says, yeah, but I'm winning. I don't want you to win. I want to win. So I'm going to change the rules so I can win.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I want to make a joke before we go on. Candy Cummings was an American baseball player, but his name sounds like someone that Trump might have paid off before an election.
Okay.
And let's see here. It's like we just had a Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame. Candy Cummings is in the Baseball Hall of Fame. I'm looking up. No one got inducted into the Hall of Fame this year again. And there's been a big drought. And the reason why is because the players that are eligible for the Hall of Fame now were the players that dominated during the steroid era. So if we've decided that Mark McGwire doesn't get to be in the Hall of Fame, then we also have to say that Sammy Sosa doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, and Barry Bonds doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, and Alex Rodriguez doesn't get in the Hall of Fame. See what I'm saying? Because they all used steroids, and if we decided that that's a disqualifying factor, the best players from that era don't get to go. Now, if you look at it from the other end of the coin, Mark McGwire hit 70 home runs in 97, I think, and that was when Sammy Sosa, so they toppled Maris's record. Now, we just had Hank Aaron die. Hank Aaron, without the use of steroids, beat Babe Ruth's record. Well, Barry Bonds is sitting here in Pittsburgh, and then later in San Francisco, and he says, Mark McGwire is the biggest star in baseball. I'm sitting here not using steroids, and I'm the best player in baseball. I'm going to start taking steroids and show everyone how easy this game is. And that's exactly what Barry Bonds did. He was one of the best players before he ever took steroids. But when he started taking steroids, he was never hitting 74 home runs a year. But he would bat, 330 with 40 home runs and 120 RBIs. He was great. But he saw that these people had an unfair advantage and that he was not mentioned as the best player in baseball, but he knew for a fact that he was. So he gets on the juice. Before you know it, he's knocking 74 home runs a year. He beats Hank Aaron's record, and it all seems illegitimate because we all know that he was on steroids. So, I don't know. That's not quite like the Candy Cummings analogy, because it's more like everyone else is doing it, so why can't I? Candy Cummings invented something, and they're like, we are not used to this. We need you to stop doing it. But it kind of plays into this whole GameStop, you can't do that sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it's similar. Yeah. But then after Candy Cummings did that, it became a controversy, and then finally they said, yeah, well, everybody can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we see screwballs, we see curveballs, drop balls, we have sliders, and we have all kind of balls now.
Mm-hmm.
And some of spitballs were banned too, but so there's always something you can do.
Yeah, I mean, but that's like, okay, those fit within the rules of the game, because that's a skill gap. If you have a wicked curveball, that's not because you used something outside of the game,
Right.
whereas steroids are not skill gap. So you remove those from the game. Well, I guess maybe what people are saying is, massively taking out a 140% short position and just feeling like the stock will fail, and then people say, well, if we buy this and we buy up all the free float, they'll be screwed. Well, they're like, you can't do that, but it's like you were taking steroids. You weren't throwing a curveball to the market. You were taking steroids, and someone caught you taking steroids, and so you don't get into the hedge fund Hall of Fame. You go bankrupt.
Buying is within the skill gap. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with buying.
Yeah.
Buying is what everyone does. That's what they're supposed to do. I mean, that's what you can do. He says, well, everyone can't buy. He says, why not? That buying is within the skill gap.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good way to put it, David.
Yeah.
Buying. And so, who was it that said, well, yeah, something needs to be done here? Yeah, something needs to be done. 104% over committed. That's what should be done.
Yeah. That was the same guy, Chamath, was saying 140%. If you can short 140% of the available shares of a stock, something is wrong. That's sort of like taking steroids.
Mm-hmm. That should be banned. That should be considered wrong.
Yeah, not people on an app buying a stock because hedge funds got themselves into a sticky position.
Yeah. But then again, it's another good time, David. This is not advice, and we're just observing what's happening. We are not experts. We're not in the area. We're around it. We see it, and we're knowledgeable, but we're not there. We're not at the table. We're not making these decisions. We don't see all the different. One thing I've learned when I was working, if you're not at the table and you hear an issue outside the boardroom, there's a lot of information that you don't know. And so we're just on the outside, just making comments and say, well, why not? And asking questions. And I think the questions from the outside are important because it makes the people on the inside, the people in the room at the table, start thinking about what they're doing in a much broader scale. And so maybe these conversations are very important for the people internally at the table, or even in the SEC.
Yeah.
Security Exchange Commission. Start rethinking some of this stuff. And you'll never know unless the questions are being asked.
Well, I mean, I think that you exploit this rule. You can short 140% of the stock, and it's never burnt you before, because I think there's kind of a gentleman's agreement among hedge funds. You screw over this company, we'll screw over that company, and never the twain shall meet. Well, these retail investors say there's risk here that these hedge funds have bought themselves into, or sold themselves into, short sold themselves into, and by buying, we can exploit that risk that they've taken on. And so they do it, and the hedge fund says, you weren't supposed to do that. Our buddies that we went to Ivy League colleges with and we have lunch with at the social club, they don't do that to us. You can't do that either. That's not part of the game. But the thing is, there's nothing in the rule book that says that that's not part of the game.
Yeah, as far as we know.
Now that we're about 20 minutes in and we're doing a week in review.
Yeah, let's review other things.
Well, we did, I think, let's sort of stick with this, but go back to our Wednesday show where we talked about razors.
Okay.
And we talked about Hanlon's razor first. Never attribute to malice that which can be adequately explained by stupidity. So I think that these companies that were shorting GameStop, do you think they had malicious intent? I mean, I think they wanted GameStop to fail, therefore they make money. But they shorted it 140%. I think not because they had any malicious intent. They were just so dumb, they didn't think anything bad could happen to them. And that's what people are, the hedge funds, they're like, nothing bad's going to happen to us. We can borrow 140% of something. So if you go to a bank and you say, my house is worth $100,000. So I want to put up my house as collateral and you loan me $140,000. Will the bank say yes? 40% of that's unsecured. uh, if you have borrowed 140% of something that exists, 40% of that can't be given back almost by definition, I feel like. I don't know. So
You
but
don't have it to give back.
yeah, you don't have it to give back. So was it malice or was it stupidity that got them into this position, the hedge funds? What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't apply that Hanlon's razor directly to this. I wouldn't say stupidity. It wasn't malice. I think it was within the rules at the time. Not within. They didn't violate anything. That was something that was done.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like no one said that Candy Cummings couldn't throw a curveball. No one said I couldn't, so I did, and it works. So wait a minute, foul, foul. And so no one said they couldn't short 140%, short by 100%. No one said they couldn't, so they did, and they've been doing that for a while. So if you do it, so maybe it's okay. I guess that's just how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden it got undermined, and now, so they didn't mean to be hurt anyone because they were making money, and they thought, well, that's just the business. That's business, and so I wouldn't. I would replace stupidity with something else. I'm not really sure what. It was just. It was within the rules. It was within the ethics of the business operations or business procedures as they were. That was challenged, and that wasn't challenged just with words. It was challenged with action. They undermined that, and now the actual explanations are coming out. So I wouldn't attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by lack of ethics.
Yeah, lack of circumspection, lack of awareness.
Yeah, lack of awareness, lack of circumspection, But then if they didn't do that, they wouldn't have made the money, and they wouldn't be where they are today. So it's there again. It's a more complicated issue. If we're not at the table, you say, well, we've been doing this and everyone's been doing this. And now it's been revealed that, someone took action that undermined what we're doing. Oh, you shouldn't do that. Why? Well, because precedent has been set. For years, we've been short trading, and so we've been doing this. But now this has shown how that doesn't work. So you shouldn't do that. So no, well, maybe we should change the short trading rules. Okay. But it's again, I think this might be the situation for someone out there, maybe smarter than me, to come up with a new razor.
Yeah. I think I want to just stay on your analogy of Candy Cummings. I think this is a great analogy, personally, because for our week in review, Wednesday, we talked about Hanlon's razor. We might get back to some of those. But on Tuesday, we had Movie Tuesday, and we talked about Dolomite Is My Name.
That's right.
So Candy Cummings, he threw this curveball. People were like, whoa, we haven't seen this before. Whoa. And it was effective. Well, Dolomite Is My Name, he went around to all these studios and he said, me and my friends want to make a movie. I'm the star. I'm a fat, middle-aged black guy. And everyone that's going to act in the movie is going to be, the leading lady is going to be a fat, middle-aged black lady. And everyone that's on my team will be a fat, middle-aged black guy. And all these people said, that's not how Hollywood works. And he said, screw it. I'm going to make this movie anyway.
Go Dolomite.
And people, they see this on the screen, and it's not what they're used to, and yet they love it because it's real. It's something that, everyone else said, you can't do that. You can't do that. It's not going to work. And he said, I believe in this more than anyone. I'm going to make it work. I don't care if I'm 15 years past my prime and 30 pounds a little too heavy. I'm going to be the leading man. I'm going to be running around beating people up, having sex with the ladies. There'll be explosions and car chases. And then I'm going to do it. And then when people saw this on screen, I think they saw the joy, how sort of silly it was. And they saw people on the screen that were real. They weren't, avatars of the perfect human. You know what I mean? They weren't like Brad Pitt or Angelina Jolie, like movie star good looks. These people were average looking people that had clearly lived life. And I think when you go to the movie, you're like the average person is an average person, average looking person that's clearly lived life. They see someone up on the stage that they can relate to.
When you see a perfect person, that may be something to aspire to. But when you see a common person, you can identify with that person. Like,
Exactly.
oh, I know how you're feeling. Yeah, I'd want to do that too. Yeah, it's more of identity.
Mm-hmm. So
That's cool.
the gatekeepers, sort of like the hedge funds in the GameStop example, but like the gatekeepers of the film producers, the film distributors, said, no, this isn't the formula. This isn't the formula, and since it's not the formula, it won't work. And Dolomite said, I'm going to do it anyway. And it worked in part because it wasn't the formula. You know, if you do something that's like you take the rules of Hollywood and you apply your amateur ability within that formula, you're going to get a bad product. But if you have an amateur ability and an amateur sensibility and you apply it outside of that formula, you're going to get a unique product. You know, you're not stacking it up against everything Hollywood does. You're stacking it up against itself.
I think speaking of movies, we mentioned this the other day, which I really love, Cider House Rules.
Mm-hmm.
And in Cider House Rules, there's a comment. I forget who the lead was.
Tobey Maguire?
Tobey Maguire. And
Homer.
What was this? Homer was the character. Homer said, sometimes you have to break the rules to do what's right.
Mm-hmm.
And, the rules are there for a purpose. But sometimes they're not always right. Sometimes you got to break the rules to do what's right. And so that's kind of what Dolomite was doing. I'm breaking the rules, but this is right for me. And as it turns out, it was right for a lot of other people too.
Mm-hmm.
And within the rules was right for a lot of people too. But breaking the rules and doing what Dolomite wanted to do was right for him too.
Yeah.
So there's not one way of doing it.
Also, I'm sure it's infuriating that a filmmaker who studied film his whole life and seen all the great French and American and German films, the year that Dolomite came out, might have had a budget 5 times the size and a leading man that was a Hollywood commodity attached to it, might have had a great casting director and a director of photography, might have done everything great, lit the scenes perfectly, they were acted perfectly well, and it didn't perform as well as Dolomite. And he says, I did everything right, and Dolomite didn't. But his film outperformed mine. And why is it? Because I think there's a lot of this ethos in rock and roll as well. You can go to conservatory and study music and become I think some of the most brilliant players are classical pianists. And you could have a career touring around the world playing in concert halls, classical pieces. And I think they're some of the most amazing instrumentalists in the world. Now, I think your average lead guitarist in a rock band has a fraction of the musical talent of a classical pianist. But they are the rock gods. They'll make more money. I mean, at least when rock was a thing, they'll make more money than a classical pianist because that's where the popular fascination is. Even though their musical skill, although, a lot of rock guitarists had considerable musical skill, but it probably doesn't compare. It's probably levels below like Arthur Rubinstein or Vladimir Horowitz or Martha Argerich. If you take a look at Yngwie Malmsteen, his musical understanding is probably a level below those great classical piano players. But because of what the people want, if you give the people what they want, and a lot of times you have these rock and roll bands, they don't even know how to play their instruments. But they write these passionate songs that sort of communicate this raw emotion, and it touches a nerve with people more than a classical piece could.
Yeah. I think we talked about music in the past too. The Week in Review.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a while ago. We did music, so we're tying music in here now, David.
So yeah, I mean, we talked about GameStop last episode, and then all the razors, and I think that I'm looking at the Hanlon's razor page now. Fingles Law. Anything that can go wrong will at the worst possible moment. I think that's what's happening to these hedge funds. They borrowed all this stock and sold it with the promise to buy it back and return it. And they said, oh, this will be fine. We've done this a million times. And then an online message board says, wait, they have to return it basically at the end of January. What if in the last couple weeks of January, we just went on a buying spree? And these hedge funds are like, this is the worst possible time for you to realize that this is a thing you can do. You're screwing us.
Uh-huh.
What did we talk about on Monday? Oh, Unity. I think that
Yeah.
ship has sailed, honestly. I don't know. From what I'm seeing in the media, it seems like that ship has sailed. 45 senators voted against even having a trial for Donald Trump for inciting the insurrection. And I guess we talked about this on Monday. Unity doesn't have to mean everyone agrees. Right?
That's right.
But I think that both sides are defining unity as we're going to be united on our side. So there might not even, and so that's never going to happen. Things that are going on are a little worrisome. But I will say this. Don't you find that the news coming out of the White House is way more boring under the first full week of Biden than it was for the last 4 years?
Well, I was listening to it this morning, and I was thinking about the press conference, and I was thinking about, I wonder what those reporters in that room is thinking. Like, wow, we haven't been able to ask this many questions in so long. I forget. They're probably thinking, I forget how to ask a question. It's been so long.
Yeah.
But Jen was there, the press secretary. She was just answering them, and they were very good answers, and some of them she didn't have an answer. She said, I don't know. If you don't know, the best answer is, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You don't make something up. You say you don't know. And that's what they were getting.
Yeah,
And,
when you have 50 cameras pointed at you, you have to realize that if you make something up, it's on tape.
Yeah. Well, I think when you start lying, when you start making things up or even lying, what's going to happen is that you're underestimating the intelligence of your audience. And I think underestimating people's intelligence is wrong. People are smart out there. They're going to figure this stuff out very quickly, and if not immediately, and they're going to challenge you on it. And so I think truth, being truthful, is necessary for a leader. If you, I think we mentioned this before. A leader tells their people the truth, and encourages them to move in a direction, a unified direction. You might disagree how to get there, but everyone agrees with the basic values of where we're going. But if you lie to them, you're really using them. You're underestimating their intelligence, and you're using them for your benefit, and that's not unity.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing factions together by lying to them is not unity. That's division.
Yeah. I guess my point was, where I got started here is, Trump was a lot of things, but he was not boring.
No, he was not.
And I kind of wanted to do a little segment. This is just a joke that I had, where lessons from Donald Trump. So what lessons can you learn? What lessons can you derive? And House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy went down to Florida and met with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of that. Because it's a funny picture. Images. Google Images. Here it is. Can I just display this?
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yes, you can.
Here they are. I think Jimmy Kimmel joked, here they are inside Saddam Hussein's palace. It's actually Mar-a-Lago, the decorations. But so Trump, I have the article here. I know. So Kevin McCarthy went down there this week to get Trump's continued endorsement. And this is lessons from Donald Trump. Donald Trump's people issued a press release calling Trump's endorsement of McCarthy, his continued endorsement, the most important endorsement in the history of endorsements.
Wow.
So, I think you can learn a lesson from Trump that it doesn't matter whether or not it's true. Of course, we just talked about telling people the truth. But as long as you say it, it's out there in the ether. So I think the Sons of Sequoia podcast is the most important podcast in the history of podcasts. And I'm going to say that every episode, okay?
Yeah, because we are talking about things that are important. We are talking about things that are the most important things that should be talked about and that you should listen to.
Yes.
Is that how we should do it, David?
Nobody has a better podcast than us.
That's right. We have the best podcast ever has been, ever is, and ever will be.
Yes.
That's right.
Nobody cares more about podcasting than us.
Yeah. And no one can see a better podcast than the Sons of Sequoia podcast.
That's right.
SOS, 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 SOS. That's where you should be.
That's right.
That's right.
It's the greatest podcast in the history of podcasts.
Yeah. SOS, Sons of Sequoia.
So I think, I don't know, like you said, there is a point where you have to tell people the truth. But when it comes to being bullish on yourself, everyone can learn a lesson from Donald Trump.
Well, okay, let's tie it back to Dolomite. He was bullish on himself, and people bought into that. I mean, so we're not talking. I think telling people the truth is a leader, is necessary for a leader, but also because if you lie to them, you're going to create division, and also, but also the thing here is that we're talking about people and humans, and humans identify. We talked about belief and the truth. People can believe things, but it may not be logical, and those are two different things. And you can convince someone about something logical, but that doesn't mean they're going to believe it. Their belief is founded in feelings and emotions and something that's deeper than just logic. But both are important. And so a leader has to bridge that gap and balance both of those things. And a good leader, okay, I'll say a good leader, and you have to think about the people's belief systems and people's emotions,
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to leading, a lot more than leadership, than just doing the right thing. You have to bring the people with you. So, and confidence, it's kind of like you have to have confidence when you do something, confidence in yourself, and that confidence in yourself sometimes is what will engage people to believe in you. Not because what you're doing is right or wrong, but because of your confidence. Right?
I think also there's like, let's go back to Hanlon's razor. What is it? We've talked about this before. The Dunning-Kruger effect.
Oh, yeah.
Where low ability people overestimate their skill. I think the more you know about something, the more doubts you have about your ability to accomplish things. That's why, like in music, a lot of times the best albums that a band or an artist will make are their first albums or their first one or two albums, because they know less. And so they sort of just plunge headlong into making a creative product. I think as they learn more, they begin to second guess themselves, and that doubt gets communicated in their work.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Yeah, but um, the Dunning-Kruger effect is very interesting. The corollary is that intelligent people underestimate their ability, or high-skilled people underestimate their ability. I think because the more they know, the more they can see what they could have done. But if you have a low ability, you think just doing anything is better than what they did before, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all relative. Again, that gets back to people. You have to think about how people think and how people act and how people react and what people believe in and why they believe in things, and like you say, where people stand is where they sit. You have to see where people are. You can talk about higher level types of self accusation, but they're not going to listen to you if they're hungry or they
Mm-hmm.
have no shelter. You have to think about people. We're dealing with people.
Yeah, I forgot like where I read this. It's in an old book, the classic literature, but it could have been Dostoevsky or it could have been Dickens. Could have been Tale of Two Cities, or but basically it was saying revolutions. The political people think that it's about the mind, think it's about ideas, but in their experience, revolution's about the stomach. If people are starving, they'll take up arms against their leaders. And they've seen in history, it's less about ideals than it is about scarcity and want. And the ideals are sort of like a veneer over the real needs of people in a revolution. That's
I mean,
why I don't
that's a
think.
difference in the history. That's the difference between the history books looking at it and when you live through it.
Mm-hmm. Like, why would you take up arms with the Bolsheviks? Because you believe in their particular brand of Marxist ideology? Or because if you take up arms with them, you're going to get a sack of potatoes for your family, as opposed to no food for your family? It's not really about the ideals. It's about what people get.
And people can not make up, but people can formulate ideals to justify actions that are motivated by the stomach.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that over and over again. You can say anything, and there's a lot of smart people. They can spin that all different ways. And so the real motivation when you're dealing with people is going to be what are their basic needs? Where are people hurting, and what are their basic needs?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have a solution, sometimes you don't have a solution, but you have to tap into those needs and those desires and those wants.
There's a philosopher, Alexander Gramsci. I learned about him in school. And I don't know. I haven't actually looked at. Gramsci. Antonio Gramsci. Let's search this page for Gramsci. I knew it was Ann something. Okay. It's called Gramscian Hegemony. So he's a Marxist. He believes in Marx's communist theory. And I'm not even going to read this. I'm going to go from my memory, so this might be wrong. But there's this concept of Gramscian hegemony. Hegemony is basically control, rule. So how does the ruling class control the workers' class? Well, if a capitalist society accumulates enough wealth, they can make everyone comfortable, even with huge disparities in wealth. So the ruling class can have 99% of the wealth, the working class can have 1% of the wealth, but the society is so prosperous that 1% allows you a comfortable life. So you don't really care that you don't have 99%.
Yeah.
I think there's some credence to Gramscian hegemony, and I think that's what Bernie Sanders rails against. He's like, yes, people do have more comfortable lives than they did 100 years ago. But that doesn't mean that 99% of the wealth should be concentrated in the hands of 1% of the people. Because there are still problems that could be solved with a more equitable distribution of wealth.
I think also, talking about humans, their definition of comfortable life is what they're used to.
Mm-hmm.
And so the 1% that are used to a very cushy life, you start eroding that away, and they're gonna come after you.
Yeah.
They're gonna yell foul. They're gonna say, let's change the rules where the little guy can't buy my stock.
Yeah.
Because you're upsetting their lifestyle, which is very, very, very lucrative.
Mm-hmm. I think people have different ideas, or different things make them comfortable. I think that where you spend your money or where you don't spend your money is a tell of that. Like, you don't particularly like traveling. So you have not spent tens of thousands of dollars going all over the world and staying in fancy hotels, because you'd probably rather sleep in your own bed at home.
That's true.
Like you say, the sidewalk in New York City is the same as the sidewalk in Denver. And it's like, if you don't enjoy traveling, why should you spend your money there? And if it provides you discomfort to be in a different city, why should you spend your money there?
Yeah. Well, I'd rather spend my money other places.
Yeah.
I enjoy just walking in a park close by, walking in a trail, and walking around a lake. And it doesn't matter where the lake is, because a lake is beautiful wherever it's at.
Yeah.
I just enjoy that. And so some people say, oh, that's terrible. No, it's not. It may not be good for you. Maybe you have to be in some remote place to walk around a lake or in the forest or in a trail. But I don't need that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the sidewalk here is made out of concrete, just like the sidewalk in New York City.
I think for some people, it's a change of venue isn't driving 15 minutes down the road to a town that's not your hometown and exploring that. And they can't make the cognitive leap that if you go somewhere you haven't been, that's 20 minutes from your house, and you sort of explore that, that's the same as flying halfway across the country and exploring a town that you've never been to. Really, in principle, it is. But you can also explore the town for a whole day, get back in your car, and be home.
That's right.
And now people, I think they think, unless I get on a plane, I go hundreds of miles away, I'm not at home, I don't really feel like I'm exploring anything. It's sort of not having that safety net, or saying, where am I going to stay? Oh, at this hotel or at this Airbnb. Like, that's exciting. It's not exciting going home. That's boring. But for me, going home is exciting. Because I like going home.
Yeah. And Dora the Explorer is not for everyone.
Yeah. Because people
But
are
it doesn't
different.
mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It's perfectly fine. Some people need to do that, and some people don't need to do that. But I want to say, though, very quickly here, that you and I went to China.
Yeah.
Okay? We toured China, and that's far from my home. And there are parts of it I didn't like. I was uncomfortable. But there are also parts of it that I really did like. And it was life-changing to see another culture, to see other people. There's we made a couple of friends over there, and it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see the value in that. I can see the value in that. And some people would have a much greater value than me. But I enjoyed it. It was good. It was life-changing. Would I do it again? Yeah, I would do it again. Would I do it every single chance I get? No, because I'd rather be home more than China.
Mm-hmm.
But going to China was very enjoyable. It was a beautiful place, and the people were very the people that we were around. And also, we're walking out. What was that? Nanjing Boulevard,
Yeah, that was in Shanghai. Yeah,
Shanghai. Wow, that was that was a great experience, and
it's
it
like
was
it's
really
like Times
like
Square in New York almost.
it was. Yeah, like I'd say it's New York City on steroids is what it was like when we were there.
Hmm.
It was wild. So I'm saying travel is. I'm not saying travel is bad. For some people, it's good. It's good for everyone. I think it's valuable, but I like being home too.
Well, I'm just saying, like Gramsci says, if you're comfortable, basically, you'll allow the capitalists to control you. So this is back to the communist argument. But comfort
Okay.
means a lot. Comfort means a lot to a lot of people. Comfort is the reason why these people won't wear masks in Walmart because they find them uncomfortable. Now, if you're told you could save a life, they say, yes, but I'm uncomfortable. So I'm going to put this thing around my neck, or I'm not going to bring it in at all. Uh, Now, some people, they feel comfortable traveling. The wonder, the awe of seeing stuff. It's no big skin off my back that I'm staying in a flea bag motel or a sketchy Airbnb. I'm in this different place, and that's exciting to me. And I get a thrill out of that. And some people thrive in that feeling of uncertainty. They don't find discomfort in uncertainty. Just because something's uncertain doesn't mean it's uncomfortable. But the second someone starts to feel uncomfortable, they say, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know if this is right for me. So if you don't feel comfortable traveling, there's no real harm in not traveling if you don't need to. I think, and I don't know, Jon Stewart, when he was interviewed about what he learned on The Daily Show, he said, move towards your discomfort. That's how you grow as a person. Or like my brother or your son, he had a friend visit him, an old friend from high school. And the old friend said, I love doing things out of my comfort zone. And nothing seems to bother him. So what he really meant was, I love doing things out of your comfort zone. Right? When he says that, like, I'm going to do something and you're going to feel very awkward and uncomfortable. And you're going to look at me and I'm going to be happy as a clam. So am I really out of my comfort zone?
That's what I was thinking. If he loves doing it, that's not out of your comfort zone. That's right in the middle of your comfort zone. I love doing it. And some people love that excitement,
Yes.
and some people do not like that excitement. That makes them uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And some people thrive on that type of excitement. And that's why there's different people doing different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, this has been a good review.
It has. We've reviewed the week. This is our first live stream on YouTube. No chats yet. Maybe I'll set up a Twitter and start tweeting about it. But no one watched.
Oh, good. We have a chat room.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we should have people chatting and asking good questions, and we'll answer them if we can.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a great thing to do here next week.
Well, yeah, I mean, someone will have to tune in first. This is a very new podcast with very few listeners. But
it's the greatest podcast ever.
It's the most important podcast in the history of podcasting. And everybody said so.
I've heard it.
Nobody knows more about podcasting than us.
I've heard that this is the greatest podcast ever.
Yes.
People have said that.
So I think we'll wrap it up for the week. We'll be back on Monday morning, 9 to 10, every morning, Monday through Friday. That was fun.
It's been fun, David.
Talk to you later. Do you want to say your tagline?
Yeah. What was it? Oh, keep on talking, but listen more than you talk.
There you go. This has been the Sons of Sequoia podcast. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Bye.